You're watching ChillyBoy Productions. I'm Larry ChillyBoy Chilson, and this is my review for The Nun 2. Now, before we get into this review, make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button down below so that you can chill with me on each and every one of my latest videos. The Nun 2 is a 2023 horror film that picks up after the events of 2018's The Nun. In 1956 France, a priest is violently murdered in his temple, which causes Sister Irene to investigate, leading her path to once again come face to face with a familiar, powerful evil. This go round, the film is directed by Michael Chavez, who has directed another Conjuring Universe film in The Curse of La Llorona, though he was not the director of The Nun. And the film once again stars Taissa Farmiga, Jonas Byquet, and newcomer Storm Reed, with Bonnie Aarons once again featured as Valak, the demonic nun. So, fun fact, in case you didn't know, The Nun is actually the highest grossing film in the entire Conjuring universe at the worldwide box office. That's right, more than any of the Conjuring films, any of the Annabelle films, The Nun reigns supreme at the box office. So naturally, we were going to get a sequel. And as they say, you can't keep a bad bitch down. So yeah, Valak donned her hood and came to fight the Farmiga sisters once more.
Mother has arrived.
And I know everyone hates the first Nun. They think it's terrible, it's awful, this, that, and the third. I have to admit, I had fun with the Nun. I think Valak is an OG. I love her. I love her design. And honestly, I just kind of viewed The Nun, and really, particularly now in 2023, as kind of blockbuster horror films, over the top horror. And that was definitely the lens I came into The Nun 2 with. But I have to say, those trailers had me sold. Every time I saw that trailer in a movie theater, everybody in the audience would jump. Like the jump scares and the scary moments of the trailer got the people. So, yeah, I was excited to visit this universe once more. And I more or less got exactly what I expected out of The Nun 2. So take that as a positive or negative as you will. But let me go ahead and explain my positives first. Well, my biggest positive is that I think well, the biggest positive for me is that it actually ups the ante on actual scares from the first Nun film. We have several set pieces throughout this film that act as really cool, fun, little tense horror moments. Whether it is Sister Irene running through the streets of France and coming across Valak's rather inventive artwork. Who knew Valak was the OG creator of the magazine collage? Or really fun ways to use the boarding school that sets as our backdrop. I actually think this one creates and crafts the like tense horror moments throughout the film really well. And I also think Valak is better utilized in this film. The third act, she is more intimidating this go round. Her look stays a little bit more intact in a way that I enjoyed this go round. And narratively, it's actually more interesting. Now, they do something in that third act I actually didn't like at all, but as an actual narrative from start to finish, it was much more interesting than the first film. I also thought the cinematography looked really good, and the soundtrack, while not all that unique or varied from a lot of different horror films, I noticed it in the best ways, and it did its purpose. It worked effectively. Taissa Farmiga is great in the film as she was in the first one. She actually has this really like kind of guttural, authentic scream that works really well in this film. And Jonas as Frenchie as Maurice. Oh, he's fantastic here. I loved him in the first film, and honestly, he could possess me anytime he'd like, but more so than just a little bit of non-religious thirst. I thought he was great. He gets to play in the wheelhouse of being evil this go round, and his switch from possessed evil man to really sweet, endearing guy is effective. And I got exactly what I wanted, but maybe slightly better. It is a big blockbuster horror film. But honestly, that's what I really expect out of the Conjuring films. With The Nun, The Conjuring 3, and now The Nun 2, honestly, we're moving past just like blockbuster horror into borderline superhero horror. And I can dig it. Thankfully, this one really blends in more old school, traditional ways of crafting those scares and jump scares. But the third act goes way over the top, much like the first one or The Conjuring 3. But once you know what you're in for, I don't know. I personally can just go along for the ride and have a good time with it. And I personally found this third act to be much more satisfying and fun than the first Nun's third act. So then, what doesn't work so well when it comes to The Nun 2? Well, it has most of the same problems as the first Nun. Honestly, it's in pretty much the same vein, same tone, just slightly more effective in the scary movie part of it all. But the script isn't great. And a big problem I have as we moved throughout the film is that everybody in this movie is just so reactive. Time and time again, Sister Irene specifically is just like staring, just standing there doing nothing and staring until she gets whacked upside the head. Like, ma'am, do you not see the demonic thing right before your eyes? Do something. And it gets frustrating because character after character, situation after situation, they just stare and watch as something happens right before their face. And then, shocked Pikachu when VALAK gives them a nice ass whooping. Also, Storm Reed, this wasn't it. Actually, I didn't really like her character. I didn't understand the need for her character at all. This film does not change if her character is just completely removed and we just focus on Sister Irene doing the work. The film doesn't change literally at all. And Storm Reed doesn't give like this great performance to warrant her being there to be like, well, at least she was good. At least it was a fun character. No, she wasn't. I don't know what the purpose of that character was in the slightest. And then I mentioned something happens in the third act, and it's not necessarily what happens and the connections that are made in that third act. It's more so the fact that they literally stop everything. The film just comes to a screeching halt. So the director and screenwriter can grab the audience by the hand and baby step walk them through it. They explain it in the most remedial terms possible. So you do not miss the big reveal connection thing that they're trying to do. Like, yeah, we got it. And speaking of reveals, something that's so difficult in films like this is reveals. There's so much hype and so much buildup in horror that when we see monsters so often, they're kind of a letdown. And I think that still kind of is the case here. I don't like when they have VALAK like go open mouth with all these teeth, kind of like Pennywise in It. And that was one of my big problems in the first Nun. They do it less here, but they still do it. We get other moments where she just like pops out. We get these moments where we're building up this really cool, suspenseful set piece, and then it ends with like somebody flying into the air and catching on fire, and it looks bad, and the acting's not great, and it just makes you want to laugh more than scares you. So they dissipate so much tension most of the times with these really kind of hokey looking reveals for the scare at the end of the sets. And that's a big disappointment and something I think the Conjuring universe needs to work on in general. Outside of The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2, and I would say Annabelle Creation, all the other ones seem to kind of have this problem. And yeah, the end is ridiculous. It's over the top. It's foolish. But again, if you watch the first one, you know what you're in for. And I don't know, relax and have some fun with it. So The Nun 2 is basically more of the same from the Conjuring universe. It certainly is in vein with what we've come to expect with this set of films over the past several years. And if that is something you're having fun with and enjoy, then I think you'll have fun with The Nun too. If you hated the first Nun and thought it was terrible, you're probably going to hate The Nun 2. It doesn't differentiate itself very much from that first film. So if you're not along for a big old blockbuster horror ride, this is not the scary movie for you. But for me personally, is it the best? Certainly not. There's a lot of problems to be had with The Nun 2, but there's still plenty of fun to be had in the process. Also, there is a mid-credit sequence that once again kind of reminds us, oh hey, we are still in the Conjuring universe. So stick around if you'd like, though I don't think it's actually all that necessary. So that was my review for The Nun 2. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below and subscribe to the channel so that you are always up to date on all of my latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see The Nun 2? Or have you already checked it out? If you have, let me know your thoughts either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.